Sorry. So somebody is scribbling on the screen. Looks like this has to be disabled.
Sir, you had to disable, sir, that annotation.
Remote control. No, not remote control. So what am I supposed to do?
And screen sharing, sir,
Huh?
there will be option that more, beside that more option will be there. And under
Okay.
that, annotation.
Looks like people are having nice fun with this. So, so is this what people are saying is Mera Bharat Mahan? Okay. So you are the host, right? Why don't you disable?
Sir, the one who shares screen, he has to.
Okay, because in the annotation, I don't see anything like
Not
that anywhere.
annotation, sir. Beside that, there will be three dots. If
Yeah,
you
more is there. More is there. Disable participants annotations.
uh,
Okay. Okay. Good. Fine. Only thing is, I don't know those participants who are scribbling, are they very happy or are they very angry? Their sentiments were not actually coming out. Maybe if they had drawn a nice drawing, we would have allowed them to continue drawing. Okay. Anyway, so everybody is able to see me, everybody is able to hear me, and everybody is able to see the presentation as well, right? Right?
yes, sir, right.
Okay, okay, good. So, and how do I, just a second. Yes, fine. So thank you very much, Ankur. So I will begin, and I first of all take this opportunity to thank Parivartan Club for inviting me for this nice session on a very, very special day. So today, as we all know, is the 74th Independence Day of our country, and it is one of the three national festivals when, without fail, the entire country stands united, right? And it is very, very wonderful that we all have assembled here to hear about this nice topic of Mera Bharat Mahan. We try to see how exactly is our country great and what makes our country glorious, right? So before that, I would like to wish a very happy Independence Day to everybody. Jai Hind. And also, we are all going through tough times of Corona, this COVID-19. But I hope wherever you all are, in whichever situations you all are with your respective family members, I hope you all are doing great, and I hope you all are doing healthy and happy. Okay, so on this note, let me begin today's presentation. So I'm sure everybody has seen this kind of logo earlier, right? What does this logo mean? This means Make in India, right? Our Honorable Prime Minister has talked a lot about this initiative, and this is a very, very great step forward for our country, as we move in the coming times. But I would like to bring all of your attention, I would like to divert your attention from Make in India to Made in India, right? Now, if you can sense the difference is Make in India, the spirit is, okay, let us try to make some things, let us try to make more and more wonderful things so that India shines, to its glory. But I would like to bring your attention to things which we have already made, things which India is already famous for, things which already makes India very, very glorious, right? So let us try to spend some time understanding what was already made in India and what actually makes our country glorious. Now, if you talk to some Americans, right, those tourists who typically come to our country to visit Taj Mahal, you will, if you ask them that before coming to India, what was your perception about India, right? Almost everybody will say that, we thought India to be a land of poor and a land of snake charmers. I mean, if you read a lot of books, I'm sure you would be aware of this, that India was known as a land of poor, or a country of poverty and a land of snake charmers, right? Let us try to understand, is that the true reality of India, right? So did you know? So I'm going to throw some facts and figures here. Did you know ours is the only society in the world which has never known slavery? There are so many other civilizations, so many other societies who have actually gone through slavery, but ours is the only society which has never known slavery. Christopher Columbus was attracted by India's wealth and was looking for route to India when he discovered the American continent by mistake. You see, so it was well known all over the world that India was a golden sparrow. It has been estimated that the total amount of treasure that the British looted from India had already reached, this is how much? This is 336 and 3, 1 billion pounds by 1901. Can you imagine? This is a figure of 1901. By that time, Britishers had already looted 1 billion pounds worth of wealth from India. Hmm. And this personality here is Mark Twain. I'm sure you all know he's a very, very famous author. He is no more, obviously, I mean, long back, but he is a very famous author. India is the cradle of the human race, the birthplace of human speech, the mother of history, the grandmother of legend, and the great grandmother of tradition. Our most valuable and most instructive materials in the history of man are treasured up in India only. Hmm. Just look at what those who are really intelligent, those who are people of good knowledge, those who are really wise people. If you know these people like Mark Twain and the various scientists, they are not some ordinary fools, right? And they don't talk sentimentally. Whenever they talk with some real basis. And look at what Mark Twain is talking about us, right? He's telling that India is a cradle of the human race. Uh, Cradle means, the place where you take birth. Humanity has taken birth in India. The birthplace of human speech, the mother of history, the grandmother of legend, and the great grandmother of tradition. Hmm? Like, sometimes in India or in Hindi, people say, I don't know how many of you know Hindi, but people say, "Arey tum jis school mein padhte ho, hum uske principal reh chuke hain." Sometimes you may have heard people saying something like that. Similarly, here Mark Twain is telling that India was the great grandmother of tradition. But look at our misfortune. Look at our misfortune. What are we Indians, talking about of India as? We are saying 100 में 90 बेईमान फिर भी मेरा भारत महान. I have seen people, young people, the generation X, Y, Z, whatever you may call it. I have seen such people making such comments about our wonderful country. 100 में 90 बेईमान फिर भी मेरा भारत महान. My point is, even if this is the case, why don't you change the situation, and then why don't you stop being a part of the problem and become a part of the solution, right? So that we will not do because we don't understand the true, the reality behind what actually makes India. And this is one of the purposes of going through this presentation on this very wonderful day of India's Independence Day, to actually understand which country are we a part of. So let us understand our rich heritage, right? Now, when we talk of rich heritage, what do I mean by it? I mean three things: knowledge, culture, and devotion. Any one of these taken on itself is not enough. You may have a lot of knowledge, but if you are not cultured, you are good for nothing. Hmm? You may have a lot of knowledge, you may have a lot of culture, but if you are not rooted in some kind of a spirituality, if you are not rooted in the higher truths of life, the higher dimensional science, the fundamental realities of life, then again everything actually is rendered meaningless. It's devotion to God, which actually adds real meaning to everything. So in the next few slides, I'm going to demonstrate to you that how we are so fortunate to have taken birth in this very, very wonderful country called India, Bharat, by having by inheriting such a rich knowledge, culture, and devotion, the heritage of knowledge, culture, and devotion. Let's talk about knowledge to begin with. Today, I mean, I'm sure you all are like college going students, or maybe you have just maybe taken up some jobs or whatever, but I'm sure you all have heard of colleges like MITs, the Stanfords, and the UCB, and Princeton, and these kind of the best of the best colleges of the world, right? Students from all over the world, it's their ambition to pursue higher studies in such colleges, the MIT, the Oxford, the Stanford, depending on whatever may be the discipline. But please note, you'll be happy to know that the world's first such colleges of higher education, which was of the such fame that students from all over the world would come and study, was established in Takshila in 700 BC. More than 10,500 students from all over the world studied more than 60 subjects there. The University of Nalanda, built in the 4th century BC, was one of the greatest achievements of ancient India in the field of education. Right, so the way we look up to MIT and Stanford and places like that, that is how the whole world used to look up to these universities, which were Indian universities at that time. Mathematics, our greatest contribution to the world. We owe a lot to the Indians who taught us how to count, without which no worthwhile scientific discovery could have been made. Albert Einstein said this, right? And I just want to give you some glimpse. I don't want to get into a lot of details here, but I want to give you some glimpse of, before now we look down upon our country, and before we hate our country, or before we, or if we really want to know the glories of our country, then we should really understand some of these things really well. So there is something called as Bodhayana Sutra, wherein it was already something like Pythagoras theorem was already established, as you can see here. And there are so many other things. For example, look at these shlokas, right? And as you know, Sanskrit was the language of India, right? So look at this shloka down below, and the meaning is some very nice mathematical equations, right? Similarly, you all know that India is the origin of Vedic maths. It actually is a part of Atharva Veda. It deals with the Atharva Veda actually deals with the branches like engineering, mathematics, culture, medicine, and all other sciences with which we are today aware of, right? And Vedic mathematics is a part of it, and it was rediscovered from the Vedas between 1911 and 1918 by Sri Bharati Krishna Tirthji, And according to his research, all of Vedic mathematics is based on 16 sutras or formulae and 13 sub-sutras. And, it is, in fact, these days there are many institutes actually which teach Vedic mathematics. How so many problems can be solved, so many calculations can be done just by some 16 formulae. And those formulae are not something very, very difficult. They are based on how mind works, how human mind works. I mean, here is just an example of these 16 formulae. For example, if you see the very first formula, it says ekadhikena purvena. You see, I don't know if it is very clear, but if you see the very first formula, it says ekadhikena purvena. Just to give you a hint, the first sutra, how does it work? Ekadhikena purvena. That means this formula used to give very easily the square of numbers, or it used to enable people multiply numbers fast. For example, if you see here 65 into 65, ekadhikena purvena, the previous digit is 6, add 1 to 6, so 6 into 7 and then 25, you see. So when the sum of the last digits is base 10 and the previous parts are the same, then again this can be applied. Ekadhikena purvena, you see. So like that, each and every of these formulae here were very, very natural, and they had a tremendous application on mathematics, and that enabled people to do calculations really, really fast. And there are many institutes and organizations dedicated to teaching Vedic maths today by today, right? And where did that originate from? That originated from our glorious Shastras like Atharva Veda. Now here is another very, very beautiful thing. Look at this shloka by Bharati Tirtha, right? This shloka is like Gopi Bhagya Madhurvat Shringi Shodhati Singha Khala Jivit Khada Galahara Rasandhara, right? And this is not some, some arbitrary composition, like Baba Baba Black Sheep or something like that, which may not have some really, really good meaning, right? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it's not that kind of a poem. This poem has a really, really wonderful meaning, which is related to some of the pastimes of Lord, right? Now, what is the specialty of this shloka? If you assign numbers to every letter in Hindi or Sanskrit, and then when you add those letters, and when you arrange those letters according to the shloka, as you can see in the bottom left, right, then what you get is the value of pi, right? You get value of pi by 100, basically. I mean, depending on where you put the decimal, but the digits are the digits of pi, right? Now, is this not something mind-blowing? Now, will you call such people to be some primitive people? Right? So we have to understand who are our ancestors and which country we have taken birth in. That country is not a country of some fools or sentimentalists who actually were good for nothing, who could not do anything, right? And why are we discussing this? We are discussing this because unless we understand our roots, a tree is known by the fruits it bears, right? Unless we understand our roots, we will not be able to live up to the expectations of this great country which it has from us, right? Lions don't give birth to sheep. Lions give birth to lions. Yeah, the lions may have forgotten this, and that's why we want to remind each other that who are we? We should not be like beggars, begging from with both our hands, in front of some Westerners. We have to understand what is India, what does it stand for, and what contributions India has made to the whole world. Now, talking of health and medicine, please note we are still talking about knowledge, right? Talking of health and medicine, Ayurveda is the earliest school of medicine known to humans, and now people all over the world are becoming more and more aware and convinced of the great benefits of Ayurveda, and the effectiveness of Ayurveda. Now, here in this picture, I am giving you an example of how so many years back itself, embryology was so precisely mentioned in Ayurveda, and that if you see what is taught in today's medicine school, Gray's Anatomy, which talks about embryology, it actually matches very, very precisely what is being taught in medicine school today versus what was mentioned many thousand years back in our Shastras, in Ayurveda. Sushruta is the father of surgery, again talking about health and medicine. 2600 years ago, he and health scientists of his time conducted complicated surgeries like cesareans, cataract, artificial limbs, fractures, urinary stones, and even plastic surgery and brain surgery. You see, usage of anesthesia was well known in ancient India, right? When people at the other places of the world, in the rest of the world, did not even know how to speak, when people did not even know how to count. Here people were doing, plastic surgery. Then astronomy, Surya Siddhanta. It is a book which is till date one of the most authorized books on astronomy, all over the world. A textbook on astronomy of ancient India, last compiled in 1000 BC, believed to be handed down from 3000 BC by aid of complex mnemonic recital methods still unknown today. Right? At that time, people did not used to write things down. Right? Just by tradition of hearing, somebody would speak and you would hear. Right? People were so intelligent, their memories were so sharp that just by the aid of complex mnemonic recital methods, they would memorize so many things. Such were the advanced techniques which were known to us. And now today, there are many scientists and researchers all over the world who have dedicated their lives trying to rediscover such things from India, right? And the pity, the irony is, I'm not saying that all of you attending here are like that, but there are many so-called Indians who actually, they look down, they deride upon, the greatness of India, and they are only and because they are doing that, they are basically disconnected from their roots. And the moment you are disconnected from your roots, what happens to you? You become like a broken piece of glass, just scattered somewhere on floor and just to be exploited by the rest of the world, right? So it showed the Earth's diameter to be 7840 miles compared to modern measurements of 7926.7 miles. Show the distance between the Earth and the Moon as 253,000 miles compared to the modern measurements of 25270 miles. You see, look at the precision so many years back. And here is a shloka, from Surya Siddhanta, which talks about the radius of the Earth and the diameters of the Earth and circumference and whatnot, right? Bhaskaracharya calculated the time taken by Earth to orbit the Sun hundreds of years before astronomers smart, right? And he mentioned it as 365.25 days, which is it can't get closer than this. It is so close to what scientists have figured out now. Talk about atomic physics, right? Heisenberg. I'm sure all those of you who have studied chemistry, at some level or the other, must have come across this guy called Heisenberg. We have always come across Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. He is everywhere in chemistry, right? What is he saying? After the conversations about Indian philosophy, some of the ideas of quantum physics that had seemed so crazy suddenly made much more sense. Just look at how rich our philosophy is, because actually in India it was all integrated. It's not that, okay, talking about God is one thing and talking about maths is something else and talking about physics is something else. No, it was all integrated because the big picture was very clear to everybody. The ultimate goal of life, the ultimate realities of life, the higher dimensional science, the higher truths of life, it was all known to everybody, and everybody used to live their life in such a very holistic and integrated and realistic understanding. Right? At this point in time, let me also talk about these three Qs, which I'm sure you are aware of, right? Beginning from IQ. IQ is intelligence quotient, EQ, emotional quotient, and then SQ, spiritual quotient, right? So people in ancient India, they were not only rich in IQ, they were not only rich in EQ, but they were also very rich in SQ. And these three actually make you really a complete person. Here is another example of speed of light. It is mentioned in Rik Samhita 1.50.4. It says, sun quickly pervades the whole world. Sayanacharya comments the above Samhita thus, and then he talks about, he derives the velocity of light, the speed of light as 186,300 miles per second, which is very close to what the modern understanding is. So this was about knowledge. I mean, I just took some glimpses, of whatever I could quickly gather. But if you try to actually do more research in this area, you will be more and more mesmerized. You will be more and more shocked to see the great treasure. Like some days back, I had attended a science conference in Pune. It was called some Indian Science Festival or something like that. And there was a small boy, I think some 12, 13 years old. And he was talking about, he has invented a cryptographic system based on something mentioned in our Shastras. And he was describing so beautifully that how it was already present there, and he has just managed to kind of rediscover that, and he was presenting his new approach to cryptography using Shastras, right? And then it's like the more you discover, the more you realize that there were so many shocking, amazing, wonderful things about knowledge in our country. Now moving on, so I talked about knowledge, culture, and devotion, right? So now moving from knowledge, let's go to culture. Now, why culture is important, right? Now you may be a pandit, you may be tremendously knowledgeable, but if you do not know how to respect your parents, if you do not know what does it mean to be in a family, if you do not know what does it mean by brotherhood, fatherhood, right, whatever, and if you may be having tremendous knowledge, you don't know how to respect women, you don't know how to respect old people, right, then that knowledge is useless. You can only be called as maybe sophisticated animal, you know, if you are not cultured. So, and then we see in India, not only there was tremendous advancement in knowledge, but there was tremendous advancement in culture as well. Because as I said, things were not unbalanced, right? Once I came across a nice quote. It said, knowledge means to know matter, to know spirit, and to know the controller of both. You see, real knowledge does not mean to just know about matter. Real knowledge means to, because in this world, it's not just matter that you see all around you, right? This mouse is matter, this keyboard is matter, this laptop is matter. But who are you, me and you? Right? In our very first science class, maybe class 5 or class 6, we were made to do an exercise. We were made to draw a column and we were made to write, okay, write down living things on the left hand side and write down non-living things on the right hand side. That was the very first science class which we all attended, because that's the very first thing you observe in this world, that there are two kinds of things around us. One are living and the others are non-living, right? The non-living things are all made up of matter, but what is it that makes life? That is spirit, right? And that's where spirituality begins. So it is said real knowledge is not just about knowing matter. That is like one-sided knowledge. That is not complete. That is incomplete. And only by living life based on incomplete knowledge, you know, you can only mess up your life. But that was not the lifestyle of ancient India. It was deeply rooted in spirituality. It was deeply rooted in culture, very well knowing that it's not just matter that you have all around us. You also have spirit. You also talk about relationships. You talk about how people deal with each other, because that's only possible between life. Life can only interact with life, right? So let's take some examples of that now. India conquered and dominated China culturally for 20 centuries without ever having to send a single soldier across her border. You see who is saying this? The former ambassador of China to USA is saying that. You know, can you just imagine? Right? And today, now, I mean, of course, the matter is totally different, but this is our glory. And now, what do I mean by culture? Culture means the kind of books you read, the kind of music you watch, music you hear, the kind of movies you watch, theater, cooking. You know, India is the mother of cuisines. India is the mother of culinary arts, literature, poetry, drama, theater, dance, music. All this is culture, right? And what was the aim of this culture? The culture was so rich that it would actually give the inner fulfillment to people. It would add all the colors and spices in their life, and in doing so, knowingly or unknowingly, they'll also fulfill the purpose of human life. They'll also reconnect themselves to God. Therefore, if you see any traditional, be it whichever part of the country, be it whichever part of whichever religion, you will see ultimately it will be rooted in God consciousness. That was the glory of our country. And look at what Encyclopedia Britannica says. I'm sure you have heard of this encyclopedia. It's a very, very famous encyclopedia called Encyclopedia Britannica. It says, if there is a country on earth which can justly claim the honor of having been the cradle of the human race, or at least the scene of primitive civilization, the successive developments of which carried into all parts of the ancient world and even beyond, the blessings of knowledge, which is the second life of man, that country is assuredly India. So rest of the world is acknowledging this fact, and we ourselves, you know, are unaware, you know, blissfully ignorant of such facts. Thoreau, actually, one of the great American thinkers of the past, he said, whenever I have read any part of the Vedas, I have felt that some unearthly and unknown light illuminated me. In the great teaching of the Vedas, there is no touch of sectarianism. It is of all ages, climes, and nationalities, and is the royal road for the attainment of the great knowledge. And now here I take a pause and ask each one of you. Every country is typically known for something. Every country is famous for something. What is Switzerland famous for? We all know of Swiss watches, right? Or Swiss chocolates. Switzerland is famous for watches and chocolates. What is Japan famous for? Japan is famous for robots, automation, robots. What is Brazil famous for? Brazil is famous for soccer, football. What are the Gulf countries famous for? Gulf countries are famous for oil. What is Malaysia famous for? Sandalwood, you know, rubber. That's what Malaysia is famous for. Similarly, there are different countries of the world which are famous for something or the other. And will you get any points to guess what is India famous for? What it has been famous for throughout the history? India has always been famous for its rich culture and tradition. You will never see any Indian, you will never see any American or any Westerner coming to India in search of money. Indians, you know, are going abroad in search of money. What are people, even the richest, even the stinkingly rich, millionaires, billionaires are coming to India, you know what? In search of relationships, in search of family, in search of experiencing some culture, experiencing connectivity with God, experiencing tradition. Because it is that actually which satisfies the soul. Mm. It is that which satisfies the soul. And that is what India has been very, very rich in and continues to be. Mm. Today, even if somebody has to go to a bar, you have bars names like Shri Krishna Bar. They say, okay, chalo, let's go to Shri Krishna Bar today. Even in going to a bar, somebody says Shri Krishna Bar and he gets a lot of pious credits. Of course, it is things are degraded to a large extent. But the point is that earlier they were so wonderful that even after so much of degradation, we still see the rich cultural aspects in each and every corner, nook and corner of the country, from east to west or from north to south, right? And I was just trying to Google some things today, and as soon as I went to google.com, I saw this Google Doodle, right? And in the honor of India's 74th Independence Day today, they have put up this Google Doodle, right? And if you see, what does this depict again? It depicts the rich. Now, this, what can be a bigger testimony? What can be a bigger proof than this? That Google, when Google has to think of representing India, by this nice doodle, Google thought of representing the culture of India, music, arts, literature, dance, that's what is the rich culture of India. And whatever we just saw in this Encyclopedia Britannica, that how the Vedic culture, the different elements of Vedic culture have spread from India all over the world. Actually, it is a fact that we see the traces of Vedic culture all over the world. You see, for example, this airport in Bangkok, Thailand. You see this Samudra Manthan Leela. If any of you are well versed with some ancient stories, our ancient Indian history, then you will see many, many thousands of years back, this Leela, this pastime of Samudra Manthan happened, wherein the demigods and the demons, they partnered to churn the milk ocean, and through the churning nectar came, right? And that Leela, probably it is not there in any of the railway stations of India. It's not there in any of the airports in India, but it is very much there in the airport of Bangkok, Thailand. What does this go to show? That the elements of Vedic culture are actually spread at many, many places in the world. Now here, if you see in Indonesia, the very official airlines of Indonesia are called Garuda Indonesia. Now, Garuda, as you know, in our history, is one of the personalities, who is the carrier of Lord Vishnu, right? And Indonesia has very proudly called its official airlines as Garuda Indonesia, right? And we have to actually take pride in such things, and there are so many places wherein so many of Ramayan's Leelas, like Kumbhakarn eating the monkeys, or like Lord Ram and Lakshman, or Ganesh ji, or Hanuman ji, at so many places in the world, these things have been found. In fact, I would like to refer you to this very nice book by Stephen Knapp, Proof of Vedic Culture's Global Existence. This book actually contains, many, many references of how the Vedic culture is actually found in each and every part of the world, and it has all actually originated from here. Therefore, no wonder that Dr. Arnold Toynbee, a British historian from 1889 to 1975, he remarked, "It is already becoming clear that a chapter which had a Western beginning will have to have an Indian ending, if it is not to end in the self-destruction of the human race. At this supremely dangerous moment in history, the only way of salvation for mankind is the Indian way." Now, please take a pause and reflect. He's talking about this surely not after 1975, because he passed away in 1975. That means the latest he would have said this in 1975, correct? Now, please note, in 1975, things were not as degraded, things were not as materialistic as they are today. And even in those times, when things were much, much better, I'll quickly tell you what do I mean by things were better then and things are degraded today. In 5 minutes, we'll get to that. But suffice it to say that Martin Luther King said that today we have guided missiles but misguided men. Martin Luther King once remarked, today we have guided missiles but misguided men. And this guy is saying it's already becoming clear that a chapter which had a Western beginning will have to have an Indian ending, if it is not to end in the self-destruction of the human race. At this supremely dangerous moment in history, 1975 he is talking about, what to speak of today, the only way of salvation for mankind is the Indian way. But unfortunately, what is the tragedy of modern India? In spite of so many accomplishments in the past, in spite of so many great thinkers and philosophers looking at India in such a high regard, what are we Indians looking at India as? We are not taking pride in our rich spiritual and cultural heritage. On 15th August 1947, 74 years back, India became independently dependent on the West. Yes, we became independent from the foreign rule, from the hands of the foreign rule. But we became independent for what? to be able to give away all our cultural and spiritual practices and to just become slaves in the hands of some Western education system or slaves in the hands of some Western thought process and then ruining our lives in the process. We are sitting on diamonds and begging for the broken pieces of glass. And in the next few slides, I'm going to talk about what do I mean by that? What do I mean by this degradation which has been caused about by the Western thought process, very much against the great philosophers and thinkers of the past. Today, our life has become so fast. Nobody has time for each other. In cities like Bombay, if somebody dies on road, people would just continue to walk by. They will not even look at what has happened. Right? We have made our lives so busy because the value of people has got reduced. Things have become more important for us. People are no longer important for us. Look at this cartoon on top right. This guy is saying, he is talking to, he is so proud about the technological advancement that he is talking to his mom. He says, why do you want to spend time with me? We are already together thanks to modern phonovision. Of course, this cartoon is like many, many years back, but people are thinking that, this technology can be a substitute for the fulfillment of life. Actually, it is not. Talk to those people who are at the edge of technology. They actually are so fed up with technology that they want to keep their children away from technology. Now, I'm not saying technology is bad. Please try to understand. I'm saying technology is best servant, but it is worst master. Please note this. Technology is best servant. If you can make technology, if you can put technology to good use, it is wonderful. But if you are getting overwhelmed by technology, if you are getting consumed by technology, if you are getting carried away by technology to such an extent that you have forgotten about certain fundamental truths of life, certain fundamental principles of life, which diseases like corona, the pandemics like COVID-19 make us realize time and again, then we are grossly mistaken. And what is the materialistic culture breeding? The materialistic culture is actually encouraging people to exploit each other more and more. Baap bada na bhaiya, sabse bada rupaiya. Is that the fact? Is that what our civilization is meant to teach? And if that is the principle, then are people going to be happy? Maybe one person is going to be happy at the cost of thousands and millions, right? And people have ruined their family life. Earlier, there used to be joint families. Now people are not able to stay together because the ability to deal with each other, because of always dealing with computer. If I morning to night, if I'm dealing with computer, how do I know how to deal with my wife? Since right from childhood, I'm used to pressing a button and getting the response which I want to get, right? If from my childhood I am used to that, then tomorrow later when I deal with people in my life, I may press a button, but I may not get a response according to what I expect. And that will create frustration in myself. That's why you see people committing suicides. Those who are weak, they commit suicide. Those who are strong, they actually kill others. Whichever way, both are like two extremes of the same spectrum, right? And there is a widespread lack of fulfillment. You see smiling faces and crying hearts. What is the root cause of all this? The root cause of all this is the rampant materialism, forgetting about the real knowledge, forgetting about the real culture, forgetting about the real devotion, which is what India stood for, which is what India was, which is what with which India was guiding. It was a guiding light, a torch house, a lighthouse for the entire world. And forgetting all of that, we are also busy in a rat race. We are all busy running in a rat race. We are running from pillar to post, from womb to tomb, and not knowing where we are running, but we are running. Now, what is one of the greatest problems in running a rat race? One of the biggest problems in running a rat race is even if you come first, you will still be called a rat. Now, are we rats? No, we are human beings. Human beings are supposed to live with more conscience. Human beings are supposed to think before we act. Human beings are supposed to reflect, pause and reflect. Oh, wait a second, where we were and where have we come? Are we going in a wrong direction or are we going in a right direction? Right? And here there is a small glimpse. I want to bring your attention to where we were and where are we. And let us ourselves decide that are we making progress or are we going down? Earlier we used to have the culture of Atithi Devo Bhava. Atithi Devo Bhava means guest was treated like God. But today we say beware of dogs. Earlier, outside the homes, people used to write Atithi Devo Bhava, saying that, okay, guests are welcome. But today they write beware of dogs, even though there may be no dogs in the house. Falsely, as a lie, they will write beware of dogs so that nobody enters the home. Earlier, we used to say Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. That was the spirit, right? That means what? The whole world is like our family. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Vasudha means earth. Vasudhaiva, the entire planet Earth. Kutumbakam is like one family, right? But today, where have we come? Yeah, our bungalows, the size of our homes may have increased, our bank balance may have increased, but our hearts have become smaller. We are not even able to accommodate our family members in our home. What to speak of accommodating the entire planet in our heart? So we say behind a truck, once I saw written, Chota Parivar, Sukhi Parivar. We were in the spirit of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, and from there we have now come to the level of Chota Parivar, Sukhi Parivar. Uh, Earlier we used to say live and let live, Geo or Jeene do. Now we say beg, borrow, steal, kill, but enjoy. हाँ, बाप बड़ा ना भैया सबसे बड़ा रुपया. That's what is the slogan today. And is it making any of us any happier? We may have a lot of scientific and technological advancements and gadgets because of which we are saving a lot of time. Yet we all keep complaining about time. I never saw any of the people of the previous generation ever complaining about time, though they did not have so many facilities, so many conveniences, so many gadgets which we have today. Right now, look at the irony. Something is wrong somewhere, is it not? In spite of having so many facilities and conveniences, we are saying we don't have time. And then back then they did not have so many conveniences, and yet they had all the time in the world to cater to the needs of their near and dear ones. Earlier we used to say let's make people better. Today we say let's make things better. You see, there is a gulf of difference. There is no harm in making things better, but not at the cost of people, not at the cost of degrading our conscience, degrading our consciousness. Earlier, at smallest of accident, at smallest of something, spontaneously, it would come out from our mouth, hey Bhagwan. Now today it comes out. Earlier we used to say, oh God. Now we say, oh shit. And these so-called modern people who, they think that saying shit every now and then is modern. They don't probably understand what the shit mean. Shit means stool. And now, according to our culture, according to the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, whatever you remember, is what you become in the next life. Now, the culture of India was such that we would consciously or unconsciously, knowingly or unknowingly, remember God more and more through dance, through music, through drama, through speech, through poem, through literature, through cooking, through festivals, through holidays, through names. You see what kind of names were kept. People's names were like Ram, Shyam, Sita, Srinivas, Lakshmi Narayan, Murti, whatever, Damodar Das, right? These were the names. Right? So this was an integral aspect of our culture that knowingly or unknowingly we would make progress in our consciousness. We would elevate our consciousness. We would not degrade our consciousness. But today, not understanding the rich philosophical aspect of our culture, not paying attention to that, we have lost what we had. Earlier we used to say Santosham Param Sukham. Today we say Ye Dil Mange More. Earlier even the beggars were satisfied. It is said in Ayodhya, when Ram Rajya was there, it is said that there was nobody used to give charity. Now apparently it's a bad quality, but it is being glorified as a good quality of Ayodhya. You know why? It is said that Ayodhya was so great that nobody gave charity. In other sense, it is being said that actually nobody ever needed anything from anyone. You see? But today, what is the mentality? Even the richest guy, once the seventh richest person of the world. Now please imagine, some of my relatives are stinkingly rich and I know how rich they are, and yet they are nowhere in the world ranking. Now please imagine the seventh richest man in the world, must be how stinking rich. And he was once asked, oh, you are at the top of the world, you have so much money, what do you want? And he said, I want more. Again, a beggar mentality. Not Santosham Param Sukham, but Yadil Mange More. Earlier we had real friends. Today we have only Facebook friends. Objects were used and people were loved earlier. Today, unfortunately, objects are being loved and people are being used. Is it not? Now one may say, okay, so what? So why are you becoming so angry? No, we are not becoming angry, but the point is that these things we are knowingly or unknowingly becoming a victim of this. Not only so, basically we are becoming both. We are also becoming instruments in furthering these degradations. And secondly, not only we are becoming the instruments in furthering this degradation, we are also becoming the victims of this degradation. But the choice always lies in our hands. Do we want to continue to be a part of the problem, or do we want to be a part of the solution? Right? Let us all make this resolution today that no, let me now change. Let me change. Change begins with ourselves, and let me change for the good of individual, collective, family, society, nation. Earlier, just as one more example, earlier before beginning anything, we used to say Shri Ganesh. क्या करेंगे? Shri Ganesh करेंगे. चलो Shri Ganesh करते हैं. Just imagine the depth and the richness of the culture. And today we say, kickstart. This kickstart thing was introduced by Britishers because whenever any Indian would not work, they would just, kick him. And they would say, chalo, get started, and that's why kick start. Look at the culture. They kick things and start. And we pray and we say Shri Ganesh and then we start. Can you see the gulf of difference? And now we should know who to make our role models. Earlier we used to say Sarve Sukhina Bhavantu. And today we say Karlo Dunya Mukhi Mein. Sarve Sukhina Bhavantu, that is the spirit of India. That is the Indianness, the real Indianness. Today we are talking about our freedom, right? Freedom brings along with it a lot of responsibility. If freedom is given to somebody who is irresponsible, he will only create havoc in the society. But therefore, freedom along with it comes with a great responsibility. As intelligent youth, it is our responsibility to understand our glorious past and to inherit that legacy and to carry it forward and to not let our ancestors down. To understand that lions don't give birth to sheep, lions give birth to lions. So therefore, we have to remember who we are. It is said in the Shastras, Bharat Bhumite hoile manushya janma yar, janma sarthak kari kar paropkar. That is a duty of every Indian, that we are not only supposed to perfect our lives, because we understand we have a very, very glorious past of rich knowledge, rich culture, and rich devotion, a very, very integrated understanding of the physical quotient, the intelligence quotient, the emotion quotient, and the spiritual quotient. We were actually guiding the guiding light for the entire world. So therefore, it is our first duty to perfect our lives and to help others perfect their lives. Jan sarthak kari kar paropkar. One who has taken his birth as a human being in the land of India should make his life successful and work for the benefit of all people in the world. And therefore, Mark Twain used to say, in religion, India is the only millionaire. The one land that all men desire to see, and having seen once by even a glimpse, would not give that glimpse for all the shows of all the rest of the globe combined. Such is the power of rich culture and spirituality, because ultimately that is what touches the soul, in front of which you don't want anything else. Jesus Christ used to say in Bible, what profiteth a man if you get the whole world but you lose two eyes? Now one may say that, oh, getting a whole world is very, very important, right? But not at the cost of losing your two eyes, because then everything else will become meaningless, right? We have to understand what is our glorious legacy so that we can take it forward. If we think that our ancestors were all fools and jokers, and it's like our greatest misfortune that we have taken. I know of people who plan their pregnancy in such a way that their child is born in America so that we can become American citizen. I think to myself that, oh, what a misfortune. It is said in the Shastras that the demigods are eager, they are praying to the Supreme Lord to please take birth in India, to please, so that they can get birth in India. Such is a glorious, such is the merit of taking birth in such a wonderful country of India. And on the other hand, with not understanding our great spiritual and cultural heritage, people are making such gross mistakes. So ours have been the spiritual capital of the world, and it is our duty, you and me, the modern youth, the intelligent people. See, I'll tell you one thing, 2% of the people are wise and 98% are otherwise. Right? 2% of the people are wise, 98% are otherwise. Now, choice is yours. Do you want to be in the part of the 2% or 98%? And India has been a motherland to great leaders who had high standards of character. You talk about Chanakya Pandit, talk about Shivaji Maharaj, talk about Maharana Pratap, talk about Chandragupta Maurya. There is a story in regard to Shivaji Maharaj once. So the Mughals, they used to attack the Hindu kingdoms, and they would plunder all their wealth, and they would mistreat, ill-treat the women of the Hindus. Right. So once when Shivaji's army conquered some of the Mughals places, then Shivaji's soldiers also caught, just to do tit for tat. Shivaji's soldiers caught some of the women and brought in front of Shivaji, saying that, Shivaji, now please, take revenge. And Shivaji chastised his soldiers. He said, you rascals, you fools, don't you understand that our culture is to treat every woman as mother? Don't you see that she is a married lady? Please, with full honor, with full respect, return her back to her husband, to her home. Such is the character which has been exhibited by the great leaders of our country. A civilization rooted in spiritual values is what will make everybody prosper. And we had God-conscious leaders. In fact, what to speak of philosophers and thinkers, you will see even scientists, in the past, they were God-conscious. Because as I said, everything is integrated. Unless you live a life of reality, you are only living a life of ignorance. And now, so once, somebody asked me that, imagine a foreigner would come to you, and the foreigner, he has heard a lot about India's rich cultural and spiritual heritage, and he meets you on a train journey, let us say, and he says, oh, you are an Indian. Oh, I have heard a lot about India. Can you please tell me something about India? He will say something like that. And then now you may wonder, अरे बाप रे, बात तो सही है, इंडियन तो मैं हूँ. Now he is asking something about Indian culture. What do I speak? I don't not even know C of culture. You know, I do not know what exactly culture means and what is the purpose of culture. I was only thinking that these Americans, you know, they are our masters and we are supposed to stand in front of them with our begging balls, you know, and they are supplying money to us, and you know we are at their mercy. And now this person, he is so impressed by India, and you know, thinking me to be an Indian, he is asking me that I should tell some glories of Indian culture. What should I speak? You know, and that is a unfortunate condition with probably many of us. You know, we may still know some things, we may believe some things in our heart, but still because of lacking a solid philosophical background, because of lacking solid teachers, we are not realizing, we are not really able to understand the comprehend the true value of what we have inherited. But anyway, for the benefit of each one of us, because in case somebody comes to us and asks what is Vedic culture, let me summarize Vedic culture in 3 lines. Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, asatama satgamaya, and mrituma amritgamaya. What does it mean? Tamso ma jyotirgamaya means Vedic culture is that culture. And I have already told you what we mean by culture. Culture means music, dance, drama, literature, arts, cooking, and everything else, right? The dress, what kind of dress we wear, what kind of festivals we celebrate, what kind of books we read, what kind of movies we watch. It's all of this, what kind of recreation we do, what kind of entertainment we do. All of this is a part of culture, right? So Vedic culture is that culture wherein knowingly or unknowingly one is made to go from darkness to light. Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, from darkness of ignorance to light of knowledge. Asatama satgamaya, from the temporary world to the eternal world, the kingdom of God. And Mritama Amritgamaya, from the mortal world. This world is called as a place of death. It is a mortal world. Mritama Amritgamaya, to a place where there is no death, the kingdom of God, Vaikuntha, spiritual world, right? Now, unfortunately, today if you ask a child, what do you mean by Tamso Ma Jyotirgamaya, a child will say, it means Tum so jao ma, main jyoti ke ghar ja raha hu. Tamso Ma Jyotirgamaya, Tum so jao ma, main jyoti ke ghar ja raha hu. That's not what it means. It means from darkness to light. Healthy, happy, and holy. Just like you have AAA batteries, right? Those thin ones, AAA batteries. Similarly, please remember this triple H formula, H, H, H. We are a package of body, mind, and soul. Actually, we are soul. According to Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, he says, Dehino asmin yatha dehe kaumaram yavanam jara tatha dehantara praptir dhirastatra muyati. We are actually soul, we are not the body. But can we neglect our body? Can we ignore our body? No. We have a body, mind, vehicle. We are like sitting in a vehicle, we are the passenger, the soul, right? So we are a package of body, mind, and soul. And unless we take care of all these three things properly, remember I talked about the physical quotient, that is body, mind, intelligence quotient, and emotional quotient. The mind and intelligence and all that comes there. Emotional quotient, intelligence quotient, and soul, the spiritual quotient, PIES. If we take care of all these four, we will enjoy the pies of life, right? So healthy, happy, and holy. What is healthy? Healthy means disease-free body. What is happy? Disease-free mind. And what is holy? Disease-free soul. So please remember this as a take-home message, that the true spirit of India is which knowingly or unknowingly makes not only ourselves but even others healthy, happy, and holy. No God, no peace. No God, no peace. And now, just in the concluding 5 minutes, I want to talk about one very interesting thing, because the moment we hear things related to spirituality or things related to God, we think that, oh, come on, yeah, I mean, we are in the world of science and technology, you know, and you are talking about God and spirituality. I mean, are you in your senses? You are talking about all these sentimental things. I want to take a pause and tell you this is not something sentimental. Just to give you an example of the genius, what kind of devotee scholars we had. As I said earlier, things were all integrated. The best of the philosophers were the best of the devotees. The best of the thinkers, the best of the scientists, they were the greatest devotees of the Lord. Now, here is an example of some great devotee scholar who was a very, very intelligent person. He was a genius, and yet he was completely devoted to God. He has composed this nice shloka, which is made up of only 2 syllables. Dha and Ra. Dhare dhara dhara dharam dhara dhara dhur arauti dhira dhir arardhadi rodham radha dhuram dharam. Something like that. And it's not some, nonsense, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, 1, 2, 3, 4, not like that. It is a very, very, though it is poetic, yet each and every word has a very specific meaning. This entire verse has been composed by using only 2 syllables, dha and ra. And look at the meaning. The meaning is so amazing. right? Beneath Govardhan Hill, which was blocking the forceful attack of the devastating clouds, steady-minded Radha worshipped the Supreme Lord, and so on and so forth. That means how it is so deep-rooted in devotion to the Supreme Lord, and yet a masterpiece of what it means to be a scholar, what it means to be a genius. Using only two letters, two syllables, tha and ra, such a wonderful shloka got composed. And if this is not enough, I would want to tell you one more shloka which is made up of only one syllable, na. Ninnun nanu nanam nunam looks like some South Indian language, but it's Sanskrit. Ninnun nanu nanam nunam nanu noni nanu, something like that. Each and every word again has a meaning here. And again, the entire shloka means something very, very amazing. This relates to a past time wherein Lord Brahma was confused and then he was delivered by Lord Krishna. You see, again, look at the heights of devotion and look at the heights of scholarly genius. So never ever make the mistake of thinking that those people who could not do anything in life, those people who who are not great thinkers, or those whose brain is not that developed, they do this devotion and they talk of spirituality and God. It's not like that. Otherwise, the best of the thinkers, the best of the philosophers, the best of the scientists in our ancient Indian culture and spiritual heritage would not have been the greatest devotees of the Lord. And if that was not enough, I would want to leave you with one more interesting thing. This shloka is another example of genius, and I'm sure you all have heard of palindrome, right? What is a palindrome? Something like Malayalam. Malayalm, Malayam, Madam, 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 right? Now, this shloka is a Sanskrit shloka, which is a palindrome, left to right to left. And I don't have time, otherwise, I would have showed you shlokas which are palindrome, not only left to right and right to left, but also top to down and top to bottom and bottom to up. And then, if you have also some intelligence, you will say that, oh, this cannot just be, this is something, right? This is something. And again, this has some really amazing, deeply rooted devotional meaning. So I would like to conclude by saying that choice is yours. Do we want to live an atheistic life which is meaningless, which is incoherent, which is immoral, life of illusion and escapism? Let me tell you what do I mean by this, by giving an example. When I was working in Oracle, we used to have pantries at every floor, right? And just for water break or something, we would go there. So once I was filling the water in my bottle, and I saw that just behind the tap from where I was taking water, behind the tap there was a poster, and that poster said "Save Water." And then there was a picture of the tap drawn, and drop by drop water was dripping, and underneath the tap there was a fish with the open mouth like this, and the drops were going inside the fish mouth, and it said "Save water, save life." I appreciated that poster. I said, very good, we should save water, very nice. But then immediately another thought came to me, that wait a second, is it not very contradictory, is it not ironical that those very guys who have put up this poster, they are eating fish in their dinner? Now, on one hand, they are eating fish. On the other hand, they are, talking about saving life, right? Now, is this not contradictory? Is this not ironical? On one hand, you are, taking out peace march. On the other hand, you are killing innocent creatures. You are causing violence, right? So, on one hand, you are making a show of being so sophisticated, so polished. Oh, thank you. Oh, sorry. Oh, okay, excuse me. On the other hand, you are not having the culture to treat some human beings properly. I've seen some people who deal with their servants so rudely, so badly, and yet they claim themselves to be somebody sophisticated, somebody modern, right? So if you see, this whole materialistic life is full of a lot of incoherence, a lot of contradictions. Our another as another example of incoherence, right? On one hand, we have grown up seeing so many Hindi movies, right, wherein we see that a corrupt officer, a corrupt government officer makes a lot of money in his life, and he has 2 3 bungalows and 4 5 cars and many servants. On the other hand, a very honest government officer, he is basically hardly able to meet his needs, right, make his ends meet. So now, on one hand, we have grown up seeing such movies. On the other hand, we are told that okay, the goal of life is to make it big in life. You should have 2 bungalows at least, and okay, if not 5 cars, at least you should have 2 cars, and like that. And on the third hand, we are told that oh, you should not tell lies, you should always be good and do good, you should always be honest, you should be very moral, right? Now, are these 3 things not contradictory, right? And in this, we are always torn apart in the tug of war. Should I listen to my heart? Should I listen to my parents? Should I listen to the people of this world? Should I listen to what I'm taught in my school? Should I listen to what are spoken in the books? Should I listen to my own experiences? Right? Everybody is torn apart. It's completely incoherent. But when we take advantage of the rich, glorious spiritual and cultural heritage of India, when we are fortunate to meet certain teachers who can actually make entire thing crystal clear to us, that okay, this is what it is, this is what it was, this is what it is, and this is what it is going to be, then things become so clear to us. And that is one of the benefits of living a God conscious life, because you get a center, you get a target, you get a goal which is absolute, which is not relative. Hmm? So God conscious life is living a life of reality. Spirituality does not mean yet another career. It does not mean yet another interest. It is not an elective subject. It is a core subject. Many of us think that we are human beings with spiritual dimension. That's wrong. We are not human beings with a spiritual dimension. We are spiritual beings who are in human body right now. So spirituality is not something optional to us. Spirit, we are spirit souls, and therefore our life means spirituality. We have to, spirituality has to be the underlying theme of our life, because we are spirit souls, and spirituality means living a life of reality, knowing very well, okay, who are we, who is God, what is this entire creation, why have I taken birth here, why there are changing seasons, what are these trees and plants, who has made this all, what is the purpose of life, why are people suffering, why bad things happen to good people, why good things happen to bad people, you see, and dot 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 dot. All of this, understanding all this well, understanding the laws of nature, is what it means to basically be spiritual and to connect ourselves with God. So when we live a God conscious life, we are empowered. Hmm? So now I would end with a call for action. Number one, let us take pride in our rich cultural and spiritual heritage. Not that we become like beggars, with all our arms spread, we beg in front of some people saying that, oh, you have a lot of money, please give me money. No, let us take pride in our rich cultural and spiritual heritage. Number one. Number two, let us never forget the secret which made our culture glorious. Its integrated approach, its connection to God in everything, its ability to be focused, to be rooted in the higher truths of life, the higher dimensional science, the fundamental principles of life. Let us do our bit to revive our lost connection with God, so that we can perfect our lives and help others perfect their lives. Bharat bhumi te hoile manushya janm yaar, janm sarthak kari kar paropakar. That is duty of every Indian. And on this day of independence, I request each one of you with folded hands to please make sure that we understand these three things thoroughly and make this Independence Day truly meaningful and a game changer in our life. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Vishal Basu sir to explaining us that how India is the spiritual lighthouse for the whole world, which can direct the whole world in the right direction. And we would like to thank all the audience for patiently waiting also. And the most awaited thing is the quiz. So first of all, I would like to give the rules for quiz. There are negative markings also, and some questions have more than one correct answer. Unless you answer all the right answers, you will not be getting marks. And the winners will be getting Parivartan goodies. So you all can go ahead and
So,
attempt the
so by
quiz.
the way,
So that,
I just had one more thing. I mean, in case anybody has any questions or comments, maybe they can write on chat and we can try to take them up.
yeah, sure, sir.
Yeah,
After quiz, they can come and we'll start answer. You can start answering the questions.
sure.
So let the quiz begin. All are kindly requested to go and attempt the quiz. So here we end our quiz. The quiz is over. Results now. Okay. Now we'd like everyone to ask questions in the chat, and I will personally ask them to Vishal Kaushal sir. All are requested to kindly ask their questions in the chat.
If somebody wants, they can also unmute themselves and ask question.
Make me host and check me. Then I will allow people to unmute.
Sir, can you allow Mr. M. Chaitanya to become a host so that he can allow others?
Okay, and how do I do that?
In the participants, you can search M space Chaitanya,
Okay.
and in the going more options, you can make him
Okay,
host.
okay. M. Chaitanya.
CAI.
Okay. CAI. Yeah. Okay. More. Make host. Make co-host.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So maybe, I mean, those of you who may have any questions or comments can quickly unmute and speak. Maybe for the next 5 minutes, we can quickly
Sir,
take
good
some
evening, sir.
questions.
Sir, good evening. This is Govardhan. Thanks for your valuable class. Actually, my question is about our three rich heritage. One is knowledge, culture, and devotion. I rightly agree with you. But my question is how to bring this into our education to bring back our original Bharat.
Sorry, come again. How to bring this into education?
Our education system to bring back our Bharat again.
I see. Yeah. So I'm very happy that actually the government, is quite action. And whenever the government would do it, that time it would happen. But till then, we all at our own individual ways, and our own families, in our homes, we can actually try to revive that culture. First of all, we are supposed to understand the culture ourselves by attending some authorized classes, by getting information from authorized sources, and by ourselves practicing that culture. And then at least in the family environment, in the environment of family, we can actually expose our children to that culture. And we can only pray that officially, the government actually can do more and more things to actually make things more Indian, right? Because after independence, we kept continuing with the same education system, which was actually made by the Britishers with the goal of making us laborers, making us workers, not thinkers. But now I'm very happy that these things are changing more and more. Right? Anybody else?
Anyone would like to ask any questions? They can please unmute themselves and directly ask, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir. कोई नहीं बोली.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Hello, sir.
Yes, Pragati, you want to share one poem? Please go ahead.
Yes. मेरा भारत महान.
Hello.
Okay, anybody else?
Sir, can I start?
Yes, you can quickly do that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. भारत हमारा महान है, भारत हमारा महान है, सृष्टि की पहचान है, हम भारत की शान है, हम भारत की शान है. तिरंगा हमारी जान है, हमारा भारत महान है. साधु संतों की तपोभूमि, साधु संतों की तपोभूमि, राम कृष्ण की धर्म भूमि, राम कृष्ण की धर्म भूमि, वीर बहादुरों की कर्म भूमि, भारत हमारा महान है। धर्म निरपेक्ष का सबसे बड़ा उदाहरण, धर्म निरपेक्ष का सबसे बड़ा उदाहरण, हम भारतवासी मिलजुल कर रहते हैं। प्राचीन काल से वर्तमान काल तक, प्राचीन काल से वर्तमान काल तक भारत की गाथा निराली है। भारत समय समय बढ़ता गया, समय बढ़ता गया, समस्याएं बदलती गई, पर भारत ने ना हार मानी। ऐसा महान मेरा देश, भारत मेरा महान है। आज भारत में अनेक समस्याएं आकर खड़ी, आज भारत में अनेक समस्याएं आकर खड़ी, चीन और पाकिस्तान के संग भारत के वीरों की चल रही जंग है। क्षण क्षण जीवन
Hello.
में लड़ रहे, क्षण क्षण
It's
जीवन
not completed.
में लड़ रहे, भारत हमारा महान है।
Okay, very nice. Thank you.
Very.
Very good.
Okay, hello,
Okay,
sir.
thank you, sir. Sir, actually, I am a Hindi teacher. Pragati and me, both of you watching. But आपने आज जो ज्ञान दिया है, आपने जिस तरह से जो ज्ञान दिया है, मेरी जो ये कविता है, ये उत्साह के लिए, और आपकी जो आज ने आपने जो कहा, वो जो है सो ज्ञानवर्धन है। ये आज आपने मतलब जो ज्ञान, मतलब जो आपने बताया जिस तरह से, जैसे हम कक्षाओं में, क्लासेस में एक्चुअली बच्चों को बताते हैं ना, उससे भी बहुत सुंदर ढंग से आपने बताया, ताकि ये जो बच्चे हैं ना, छोटे छोटे, मतलब यहाँ बहुत सारे बच्चे देख रहे थे, 8 इयर्स 9 इयर्स के बच्चे भी है इसमें देखा, और मेरी बेटी भी 10 इयर्स की है। तो इनको जो आपने जिस तरह प्रेजेंटेशन किया ना, इट इज वेरी गुड। तो मैंने भी उससे बहुत कुछ सीखा। एक्चुअली मैं क्या सोची थी कि जो आपका जो मतलब था वो मेरा भारत महान, तो मुझे लगा शायद वो आज कंपटीशन है। हाँ, एक्चुअली मैं वो थिंक था मेरा। तो फिर मैंने अभी सुन के फिर मैंने कहा कि नहीं नहीं, हमको तो ये तो सर का है। तो फिर मेरी बेटी ने वहां पर आपको मैसेज किया ना अभी, तो फिर मैंने कहा ठीक है, अगर उसकी इच्छा है तो चलो हम एक सभी को स्वतंत्रता दिवस की बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं। और जिस तरह आप ये सभी को एक साथ लेकर धर्म की, ज्ञान की बातें जो कर रहे हैं ना सर, ये बहुत अच्छी है। आप आज ने जो विज्ञान के बारे में बताया, हमारे रीति धर्म सारी, ये बहुत अच्छा लगा मुझे। आज मैंने फर्स्ट टाइम अटेंड किया। एक्चुअली मैंने देखा था जो हिंदी क्लासेस भी होती है ना, जो उसी में देखा था उसमें, और जो आपने जो कहा इसमें।
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Pragati.
Now, I'd like
Okay,
to ask,
anybody else has any question?
Hello.
Ankur, you can now decide what is to be done.
Hello.
Hello, Vishal
Hello.
sir.
Hello,
one
sir.
last question.
Hello, sir. One question is there, sir. Hello.
Yes, tell me.
Hello.
Sir, one question.
Hello.
Sir, one question.
Hello. Sir. Hello. Sir, you told. Yes, sir.
Is my voice audible, sir?
Hello. Hello, sir. One question is there. You told that we use as a technology as a servant. So day to day life, so we not focusing that servants. Technology are using us as a servant. You told that we use technology use as a servant, but this is not. We will try to do, but it is not possible day to day life. You think once. How to always focusing that we not involved, that we are not as a servant by technology. Tell me,
Very
sir,
good
about
question.
this thing.
Very good question. The answer is given by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita.
Sir, in that
If we
Wait.
make our
Yes, sir. 1 minute, brother. Yes, sir, told me, sir. I listening.
yes, so this is a very good question, and the answer is given by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita that mind. If you have made your mind strong, if you have controlled your mind, then it is very, very possible to actually use technology as a servant. But if your mind is not strong, if your mind is not under your control, then you will get carried away and you will get consumed by technology. And how to make mind strong, how to control mind? You can control mind by doing mantra meditation. So after this course, I'm sure many more courses will come up, many more sessions will be organized by the Parivartan Club. My only request for you for the time being would be that please stay connected with the Parivartan Club organizers, and whatever they organize next, please become a part of it, because some mantra meditation techniques will be taught, and those techniques will help you to control your mind and to gain control of your life. And once you take charge of your life, you will be able to decide what is good for you, what is not good for you. Okay?
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Now I would like to remind all of you that all of you are requested to kindly fill the feedback form to get your e-certificates. It is mandatory to fill the feedback forms to get the certificates. And now I'd like to thank, and link is there in the chat. You all can find the link in the chat. Now I would like to thank Mr. Vishal Kaushal sir again for making us knowledgeable about India, what is the heritage of India and what current generation is thinking and working. But we should know that the India heritage is very great. It's not only some people are saying, great philosophers, scientists and speakers have already spoken that. So thank you so much, Vishal Kaushal sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And here are the results. So as we see, first is Anant, second Sumana, then Satya Kamala, and it goes on. Okay. Then the fourth one is Pranay Mohan, fifth is Shravani, sixth is Muskan Agrawal, seventh is Sahiti, and eighth is Aarti Shavan. Congratulations to all of you. You all will be receiving goodies from Parivartan Club.
Please send your address to the number which is given in chat box.
Please send your address to the number which is given in the chat box. And you can WhatsApp your addresses on the given WhatsApp number. Thank you so much. So next Saturday we have one more session, and please stay tuned. That will be very interesting session. All the details regarding this session will be provided or communicated to you in the respective WhatsApp groups. Thank you so much.
If you have any questions, anything further, write on this answer.
If you have any questions regarding anything, please ask on the WhatsApp number. Thank you so much. Thank you, Vishal Kaushal sir.
Again, reminder of filling feedback form.
One again, I would like to remind that please fill the feedback forms so that you can get the e-certificates. Thank you so much. Now we'll end the meeting here. Thank you.